Hi folks, you're with Tassus today. Tassus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the interesting and I think illustrative case going on in the United Kingdom at the moment, where it's alleged that the senior government official, like in charge of the Treasury in Britain, they call it the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but she's sort of the head finance person in the whole of Britain. She's so it's alleged, she's been caught falsifying her CV, quite substantially falsifying it from the looks of it, and making claims of credentials and experience and expertise and so on that she clearly doesn't have. Now, in addition to that, there's claims there's allegations of quite serious plagiarism, taking the work of other far more gifted people and claiming it to be her own, but also in addition to that, claiming to be a chess champion. Now, there are some that are saying that she instead of being a chess champion and coming equal first, and I'm not sure how that works, this is young school children, she came equal first in a tournament of I think 120 or something in that order contestants, when the further investigation and others are suggesting she came 28th out of 32. And she won one match and lost the others. But anyway, regardless of that, there's some sort of confusion about it. But the sort of CV that we see, that the globalists controlled. I need to just digress a little bit here. Well, since the globalists took control of Western governments, and there are now no longer any sovereign Western governments, the quality of politicians started to go downhill to the stage now where you get a gaggle of leftist kids from the student debating club that are now politicians. There's no one's accomplished anything in their own right or achieved anything or produced anything. They're all just there as college kids running around making silly noises and pretending to be important and being paid by the taxpayer for running around like water carriers for their globalist masters. They don't make any decisions anymore. The globalists are making decisions and handing down the bit of paper, you will do this. And because there's bright, capable people who are leading the country and no longer needed, the globalists make all the decisions now. That's reflected in the sort of children that get inserted into the parliaments, and the globalists control who can stand for parliament, who gets elected, and so on. People like Donald Trump are just huge outsiders, which only the American system of primaries for elections allowed that to happen. The party machinery in places like Britain and Canada and Australia, they don't allow outsiders. You've got no chance really, or a minuscule chance as an outsider of getting elected to anything, or certainly of getting elected to government office. So coming back to this lady, Rachel Reeves is the lady concerned. Now, she's, I think, in her early 40s, and again, she was appointed as the head Treasury financial person in the UK government. This was like breaking this huge glass ceiling, the first woman ever, and the youngest woman, and so on and so forth. So a big sort of equity, affirmative action equity thing was cut. So let's look at this. Now, in terms of the burnishing the CV, I think everyone burnishes their CV. If somebody is a basket weaver, for example, they may say that they've been working in construction. Well, basket weaving is like making stuff, so that's like construction, isn't it? So you can have people that stretch it to the stretch it quite a long way. Or you can say that you worked for companies that you didn't work for, or that you worked there for 5 minutes and you say you were there for 100 years. So there's degrees of burnishing. I having interviewed a lot of people and I think there's very few, particularly as people get a bit older, there's very few that don't burnish their CV in some way. Either they take out embarrassments, or they try and talk up accomplishments and that sort of thing. I tend not to worry about it so much, as long as it's not claiming to have capabilities that they simply don't have. And then that sort of concerns me. But I can pick that up usually within a minute or two of talking to them. So anyway, coming to this Rachel Reeves issue now, as I understand it, this is my understanding at least, and again, as far as I know, these are some of these things are allegations, others appear to be on the surface of it accurate sort of condemnations of her behaviour. But she claims to have worked for, or did claim previously, this is again what I've read, that she worked for the Bank of England for 10 years. Now, we're supposed to believe that this very unimpressive young woman does a degree in sociology, or politics and sociology, and goes straight out of there into getting a job as an economist in one of the biggest banks in the world. So wait a minute, hold on a minute. Here's somebody with no work experience, no capability, no qualifications, got a degree in sociology, who gets hired by a bank that could have anybody they wanted. It's a prestigious role. She supposedly gets hired into the job of an economist. I don't believe that. I find that very, very hard to believe. Firstly, they could have hired anyone they wanted. And secondly, the idea that this young woman, fresh out of college with a sociology, clutching her sociology degree, would have been hired as an economist and transcends absurdity. Now, in an affirmative action universe, and clearly she's been in an affirmative action universe, but then there's a possibility that she was gifted the degree, or I don't think anyone fails those degrees, but was then, for political reasons, was gifted this job. I don't think it was as an economist. Maybe she was shuffling paper around a desk in some junior bullshit clerical capacity. So she doesn't appear very bright. I mean, you listen to her being interviewed, she doesn't appear as a high IQ person by any stretch. And you can see that once she sort of runs out of road in terms of the briefing she's been given by her handlers, then she flounders seriously in even soft and gentle interviews. So it's very, a bit of a Kamala Harris thing happening there, I think. Anyway, she's supposed to have said she worked for 10 years in the Bank of England as an economist. Now, that appears that she didn't work there for 10 years in any role. She was there, I think, for 5 or 6 years. So why make that claim on your CV, which she's got publicly posted, by the way, or had publicly posted. And now this is a dangerous thing, because why would you make such a public claim when it can be so easily and effortlessly refuted? And it can be pointed out. Now, your only sort of escape is, it was a typo. Look, I forgot. It was a mistake. What I meant to say. I mean, you can bullshit your way out of it to some extent, but that's been there for some time, and that's been the credentials that she allegedly put forward to claim her qualifications or suitability for the role of a head financial politician. So this would seem to be fairly important. Now, I would say that she wasn't an economist at all in the Bank of England, or had such a junior role in the Department of economics that she was getting the coffee or sweeping the floor in the Department of Economics in the bank. Then she, after 5 or 6 years, she then moved to another bank, the Bank of Scotland, where again she claimed to be an economist, at least based on the information I've seen. And it turns out she had some very junior clerical role in the complaints department. Now, you don't go from being a heavy-hitting, kick-ass economist to working as some junior clerk or junior flunky in the complaints department. Again, a junior clerical role. That doesn't happen unless you failed most horribly in the previous role, I suppose. But so really, the 10-year career in banking, or supposed 10-year career in banking, was really non-existent. I would suggest that she didn't get a job in the economics department. the job she got was an affirmative action job anyway, and that she flitted around sounding and looking important. But to say, I was an economist with one of the biggest banks in the world, that is a heavy hitting credential. But I don't believe it was true. Now, a few other things come up. This this claim of, the plagiarism thing, that was just straight out dumb. Now, it could have been that someone else wrote the document for her and they did the plagiarizing and she didn't. I suppose that's a possibility. But it's a beautiful piece of prose that she ripped off from someone else or appropriated from someone else. And so, whenever I read beautifully written, I'm saying, oh, wow, I wish I could write that. But again, you can't use it. Otherwise, it would get exposed that you're plagiarizing, which makes you sound even dumber than you might have been to begin with. Why should you have to steal other people's work? Why not create something original? Particularly if you're holding one of the most senior political officers in the Western world. Wouldn't you want to be original in your thought? But there's no track record of original thought or high intellect or capability, and I would argue, at least in Rachel Reid's background. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then there's the claim of being then going back to university to get a master's. I would argue that's an affirmative action gift. I don't see the necessary intellect there to do that. A master's in science, and you go from sociology to going back to a master's in science. That's a gift that was given. Her handlers who have spotted her from early age as being a useful stooge. So look, we need to put some real sort of grit into your background here. So we're going to gift you a master's in science. That'll make you look like a serious heavy hitter. If they don't do that, then they'll give them a book publishing deal. Published author, and this is all part of the background building and creating that. The handlers of these sort of stooge, who invent these stooges out in the background. It's the sort of thing that they do. So now coming to the chess thing, again, this is a burnishing a background here. This is I would argue, an invention. Again, the handlers and the spotters and the talent scouts looking for useful stooges they can use in the future. The allegation is that she came first or equal first, I think was the claim, in a chess tournament of over 100 participants. Now, I actually have participated in at the same age, by the way, 14. I have participated in chess tournaments, and so I speak with some sort of very minor knowledge of these issues. Now, it's possible that she came first. Maybe they selected, maybe they cleared out all the homes of children with low IQ. Maybe it was she managed to get herself in the Down syndrome chess tournament and came out first in that or something. But I can't see it there. There's some other claims that she actually came 26th, and claims that there weren't 100 and plus participants or competitors in chess tournament. There were like 32 or something, or 30, and she came 26th or 28th. I would buy that. That's a possibility. So I do remember in the chess tournament that we were, or that I was in as a kid. There was one kid there who actually went on to later on. He entered some sort of tournament to be declared or to be rated or graded as a chess grandmaster. I don't think he made the grade in the end, but he was good enough even to compete at that level. And I played him, and I got absolutely blasted off the chessboard. And wow, was this guy good? He could think so many moves ahead and so on. And and I was determined to beat him. And it sort of shitted me that I got blasted off the board so easily. So I was determined to beat him. So we had this thing where we would have 50. Can you have 50 matches? And And I got a stalemate once, like a draw. I got the stalemate once, and I sometimes think he just took pity on me and let me get a stalemate. But he blasted me off the board 49 times out of the 50. So I was nowhere near at his level. But I came fourth in the tournament. So now the guys, that fourth sounds good, but the guys came first, second, or third, well, head and shoulders above me. I was lucky to get in that final four. But looking at her, I don't believe that was the case. So I think the chess thing was just another invention. Now, if we look at the background here of this person, I'm just going back in. What's the likelihood? She comes from a sort of a lower middle class area, and she is in her early 20s. She's allowed to run for 2 elections in what are unwinnable seats. This is to give her the experience of what it's like to run an election program, how to act and how to behave. Now, normally they just give you 1 go on that to get you ready, but they gave her 2, suggesting that she was a slow learner. Now, again, she's only in her early 20s here. At the age of 29, she's gifted a safe Labor seat. It's not even where she lives, for goodness sakes. So that's already a scam. She's been parachuted in by head office. But only women are allowed to stand for the election of this seat. Can you believe it? I mean, so again, we've got this affirmative action pattern that's all over her background, diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, her parents were teachers, I think junior school teachers, as I recall. And as I understand, the father in particular was an ardent union activist. And at least that's my understanding. And so she's got that background in, equity activism and so on. Black people have been held down and whatnot. So, white people are evil and so on. So she's got this background, and she joins. I assume her father was pushing her into this, or her parents anyway. Both the parents are school teachers. Both are active in the unions. So she joins Young Labor at the age of 16. Now, given the background she's got, like, parents have never been unemployed. They've always had a wage coming in. Again, they haven't gone without or anything like that. So it's not like she didn't went starving as a kid or didn't have that push bike, that bicycle to ride or something. So we're not talking about a deprived childhood. They weren't rich, but she's not deprived in any way. Again, the government wages come in. Parents were always around when the school holidays were on, and them being school teachers. So she had certainly a stable, privilege maybe pushing it, but certainly a stable background. So this is not typically the sort of background you would associate with radical activism. But then at 16, she joins Young Labor. Then she's got a dream run. She apparently is she's an ordinary student in before she's discovered by the Labor Party handlers. Then suddenly she's a genius student, and she passed the matriculation exam to university as a brilliant student. Well, if you're that brilliant and you're doing that well, why do you pick sociology? I mean, you don't do that if you're that brilliant. So she's picked a degree. Selected a degree. I'm sure this was selected for her, but she selected a degree that anybody can get into. But then she's supposedly this brilliant student, and so I don't believe she's a brilliant. I think that's all burnishing the CV. Now, when it comes to CV burnishing, I've interviewed a gazillion people over the years, and some people come and sit in front of you and claim to have this and have done that, and they've got this and that capability, and certainly within my field of expertise, at least, if they claim they design rockets to go to Mars, then I don't know what questions to ask them. So I couldn't do that sort of interview. But in areas within my area of expertise, it takes me seconds to work out they're talking nonsense. some of it's quite inventive, and you know, if there are qualities about them that you think are worthwhile, like they are actually quite bright, they're obviously very keen and hard, you know, they look like they're hardworking and very committed, and yeah, that sort of thing. Then I'll tend to cut them some slack. Say, okay, look, you're full of shit, but let's come down. What can you really do? Okay, you claim that you were the international chess grandmaster, but really, what did you do? Oh, you just played in the local community chess club and you won okay, all right, let's run with that then. That's the reality. Let's now go with that. So I tend not to mind when people blow hot air. Well, I mean, I don't really like it, but I tend not to mind, because you say, okay, all right then, look, you've got other qualities here that are worth looking at. So let's see if we can work something out here. Just don't pile the bullshit on too thick. Now I don't believe that's the case here. Watching and listening to Rachel Reeves, the British politician in question here, I don't see any of that capability. I see it's just a complete backroom invention, invented by the globalist backroom factory that produced these sort of people, because they'll be useful later on, and then they're installed into senior positions in the government, and they're not making any decisions. They're just there to do what the globalists tell them to do, while putting a supposedly local face on things, and that's where it's at. But I'm not surprised. There's not. There's another politician in Australia who said that she was at some Ivy League university, but the reality was she was an LGBTQ counsellor at the university. But the way it's written suggests or implies that she's some intellectual genius at some top flight Ivy League university. She wasn't. She was just had some clerical office role, telling LGBTQ people how evil all the straight folks are and that sort of stuff. That was it. So these sorts of burnishings go. But the reality is that given the globalist control all the Western governments, we have a lot of very unimpressive people in Parliament. To make them look good, they just invent these backgrounds to make them look like they're big, tough and capable. In fact, they're not. They're just nobodies that have been installed into these positions because they're useful to the globalists. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.